Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are continuing reading Ruby the Red Fairy from the Rainbow Magic. I'm starting with chapter 3 this time and I'll be reading until end of chapter 4. If you would like to see the end of the story, please do watch out for my future videos. And now let's begin. Chapter 3 Fairy Magic. The fairy flew over Rachel and Kirsty's heads. Her short, silky dress was the color of ripe strawberries. Red crystal earrings glowed in her ears. Her golden hair was plaited with tiny red roses, and her little feet wore crimson slippers. She waved her scarlet wand, and the shower of sparkling red fairy dust floated softly down to the ground. Where it landed, all sorts of red flowers appeared with a pop. Rachel and Kirsty watched open-mouthed. It really and truly was a fairy. "This is like a dream," Rachel said. "I always believed in fairies," Kirsty whispered back, "but I never thought I'd ever see one." The fairy flew towards them. "Oh, thank you so much," she called in a tiny, silvery voice. "I'm free at last." She glided down and landed on Kirsty's hand. Kirsty gasped. The fairy felt lighter and softer than a butterfly. "I was beginning to think I'd never get out of the pot," the fairy said. Kirsty wanted to ask the fairy so many things, but she didn't know where to start. "Tell me your names, quickly," said the fairy. She fluttered up into the air again. "There's so much to be done, and we must get started right away." Rachel wondered what the fairy meant. "I'm Rachel," she said. "And I'm Kirsty," said Kirsty. "But who are you?" "I'm the Red Rainbow Fairy, but call me Ruby," the fairy replied. "Ruby," Kirsty breathed. "A rainbow fairy." She and Rachel stared at each other in excitement. This really was magic. "Yes," said Ruby. "And I have 6 sisters. Amber, Saffron, Fern, Sky, Inky, and Heather. 1 for each color of the rainbow, you see." "What do rainbow fairies do?" Rachel asked. Ruby flew over and landed lightly on Rachel's hand. "It's our job to put all the different colors into fairyland," she explained. "So why were you shut up inside that old pot?" asked Rachel. "And where are your sisters?" Kirsty added. Ruby's golden wings dropped. Her eyes filled with tiny, sparkling tears. "I don't know," she said. "Something terrible has happened in fairyland. We really need your help." Chapter 4 Fairies in Danger. Kirsty stared down at Ruby, sitting sadly on Rachel's hand. "Of course we'll help you," she said. "Just tell us how," added Rachel. Ruby wiped the tears from her eyes. "Thank you," she said. "But first, I must show you the terrible thing that has happened. Follow me, as quickly as you can." She flew into the air, her wings shimmering in the sunshine. Rachel and Kirsty followed Ruby across the clearing. She danced ahead of them, glowing like a crimson flame. She stopped at a small pond under a weeping willow tree. "Look, I can show you what happened yesterday," she said. She flew over the pond and scattered another shower of sparkling fairy dust with a tiny red wand. At once, the water lit up with a strange silver light. It bubbled and fizzled, and then became still. With wide eyes, Rachel and Kirsty watched as a picture appeared. It was like looking through a window into another land. "Oh, Rachel, look," said Kirsty. A river of brightest blue runs swiftly past hills of greenest green. Scattered on the hillsides were red and white toadstool houses, and on top of the highest hill stood a silver palace with 4 pink towers. The towers were so high their points were almost hidden by the fluffy white clouds floating past. Hundreds of fairies were making their way towards the palace. Some were walking and some were flying. Rachel and Kirsty could see goblins, too. Everyone seemed very excited. Yesterday was the day of the Fairyland Midsummer Ball, Ruby explained. She flew over the pond and pointed down with her wand to a spot in the middle of the screen. There I am with my rainbow sisters. Kirsty and Rachel looked closely at where Ruby was pointing. They saw 7 fairies, each dressed prettily in their own rainbow colors. Wherever they flew, they left a trail of fairy dust behind them. The Midsummer Ball is very special, Ruby went on, and my sisters and I are always in charge of sending out invitations. To the sound of tinkling music, the front doors of the palace slowly opened. Here come King Oberon and Queen Titania, said Ruby. The fairy king and queen. They are about to begin the ball. Kirsty and Rachel watched as the king and queen stepped out. The king wore a splendid golden coat and golden crown. His queen wore a silver dress and a tiara that sparkled with diamonds. Everyone cheered loudly. After a while, the king signaled for quiet. Fairies, he began, we are very glad to see you all here. Welcome to the Midsummer Ball. The fairies clapped their hands and cheered again. A band of green frogs in smart purple outfits started to play and the dancing began. Suddenly, a grey mist seemed to fill the room. Kirsty and Rachel watched in alarm as all the fairies started to shiver, and a loud cheery voice shouted out, "Stop the music!" The band fell silent. Everyone looked scared. A tall, bony figure was pushing his way through the crowd. He was dressed all in white, and there was frost on his white hair and beard. Icicles hung from his clothes, but his face was red and angry. "Who's that?" Rachel asked with a shiver. Ice has begun to form around the edge of the pond. "It's Jack Frost," said Ruby, and she shivered too. Jack Frost glared at the 7 rainbow fairies. "Why wasn't I invited to the Midsummer Ball?" he asked coldly. The rainbow fairies gasped in horror. Ruby looked up from the pond picture. She smiled sadly at Rachel and Kirsty. "Yes, we forgot to invite Jack Frost," she said. The fairy queen stepped forward. "You are very welcome, Jack Frost," she said. "Please stay and enjoy the ball." But Jack Frost looked even more angry. "Too late," he hissed. "You forgot to invite me." He turned and pointed a thin, icy finger at the rainbow fairies. "Well, you will not forget this," he went on. "My spell will banish the rainbow fairies to the 7 corners of the mortal world. From this day on, Fairyland will be without color forever."